Good day everybody. How's everybody today? So today is the 14th of December. It's nearly Christmas, we're halfway to Christmas. So before we go any further, just let me know if you can hear me. I hope you can. Louise, can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Are you on? I think you're on. Yep, your levels look okay there. How is everybody doing? Can you hear us? Before we go any further, yeah, we can hear you. Good, thank you, Amco. Thank you so much indeed. All right then, so how's everybody doing? 2 weeks to Christmas, well, just under 2 weeks to Christmas. How's everybody doing? I bet the sun is shining in Fuerteventura. I bet the sun is shining in Florida. It's not here, is it?
It's not here, no.
Excellent.
Drizzle.
Drizzle. Absolutely. So
is that a moustache, Andrew? Yes.
well, do you know what? I was just about to say something. Yeah, we see. Look at this.
Can we get a close up?
It's not just the moustache. That's the dark bit. I also got these bits.
You're going to look like Father Christmas this time next week. I can't wait.
Louise, this is over a week's growth. Look at it. It's hardly there at all. What?
Over a week.
It's been all over a week. Beardy, yeah, beardy McWeirdy. Yes. So yeah, it's a bit what's it? Blackish, greyish here, but it's very, very white here, isn't it? But I'm only growing this little bit by here, and we'll see how it goes. It's getting a little bit softer now. It was a little bit prickly, but now it's a little bit softer. But we'll see how it goes. Let me just rub this off because I left
proud of your beard, aren't you?
I'm proud. I'm not. Well, not really. It's the only place I can grow hair. I can't grow hair up here.
Oh,
this is very. This is. No, I wasn't going to say anything. Thank you, Louise. Too much information. No, I can't grow the hair up here, can I? Look, there's no hair. It just grows here. Silver fox. That's me.
Oh,
and I have to start to trim it. I got to trim a little bit down by here. Because it's starting to itch my nose, so I started just...
Come on, it's not Q&A now of your beard, let's talk about something else. Anyone else got any questions about Andrew's beard that they want to ask?
Before we start, so how's it going? All right, everybody's doing all okay, I hope. Good. Right then, a cowboy hat. How about I have a cowboy hat for Christmas? Yeehaw. Do they have? No, I don't. My lasso. Anyway, right. That's enough. What should we do?
Do you want some questions?
So we have a question and answer. It is Monday.
It
is Monday, the 14th of December. I can't believe it's 14th of December already. The question and answers was only going to be for lockdown, wasn't it? For the 2-3 weeks.
Nobody expected it to go on this long, did they?
We still got all the screens up in the shop. Well, hang on, we're not dipping, we're just auto, there we go. Yeah, so yeah, we still got all the screens up in the shop. We still got all the hand sanitizer, we wear gloves, we wear the masks. So all that is still going on. So we just have to try and see what happens now over Christmas.
Well, we're probably heading for...
a lockdown?
Another lockdown, aren't we? Here in Wales.
Lockdown after Christmas, we reckon, don't we? Closed for yet another few weeks, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm waiting for an announcement. So we're trying to prepare for that at the minute.
Yes, trying to put things in place, trying to work out what we're going to do. If the shop is going to be closed, what we're going to do. We're going to do the website and make sure the website's up to date. Social media post, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's enough of that. The people don't really want to hear depressing news, do they?
Positive. It's like, well, this could happen, but we're planning, aren't we? We're already thinking what we're going to do, how we're going to target Facebook, what we're going to...
There's lots of things we're thinking of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right then. It is Monday, the 14th of December. It is time for our question and answer session. We seem to have lots and lots of questions coming in today. So, Louise, we will try and get through them one by one in order. May we have the first question, please?
Okay, author is asking 2 questions. How to prevent air holes when casting silver in Delft clay?
Air holes. You don't normally get air holes. I'm not quite sure what you mean by air holes, because sometimes you have little bits of sand that happen to sort of break away from the mould that then will lie in the mould itself. So when the silver goes in, it'll like form around those little grains of sand, and it'll look like perhaps porosity or holes within the sand. So perhaps that is what you're thinking of, or you're mistaken. They look like air holes, they look like pockets of air, but it's actual little bits of sand, the residue sand. So you must make sure that when you make your mold, you push the sand down, really, really compact it so tight, hammer it, make sure it's tight. So when you take the mold out, you blow it carefully, make sure there's no loose sand. Yep, and then you will make the sprue area. And also what sometimes happens is when you pour the sand in through the little sprue area that you've carved out, sometimes if there are any loose bits of sand around that sort of pouring channel, it will be taken into the mold and be deposited perhaps on the surface. So again, you've got to make sure that where you pour the silver into the little pouring channel, that is spotless. You must make sure, because I always rub my finger around it to try and make sure and dislodge any loose sand. I blow it, I dust it to make sure there's no little bits of sand that could get taken into the mold that would cause you imperfections on the surface. I think that is what you mean. So it's just cleanliness, making sure that there's no loose sand. That's the only thing I can think of what you mean. Was that two parts, or was that
part two?
Part two
is...
It's cheating saying part one, part two.
Don't be horrible.
Okay, it's Christmas.
How do you use decorative bezel wire? Do you solder it onto a bezel, or do you use just the wire for making the bezel?
I think I would solder it up onto perhaps a back plate, or make up a ring for the stone to sit on top of, exactly, and then put the bezel strip around that, because sometimes the decorative bezels are just that little bit too fine and they need a little bit of strength behind them. So yes, back plate or a little ring that goes on the inside that's going to give that bezel a little bit of strength. I think that would be the best way to do it. Excellent. Next question, please, Louise.
Okie doke. Susan is asking, do you chill your rubber moulds prior to wax injection, and would silicone moulds eliminate the chilling?
No, I don't bother chilling them, because you can chill them in the fridge, but when you come to produce your waxes, you don't produce one wax, you produce multiple waxes. So for instance, if I still got my spanners, I still haven't done my spanners yet, so here are my spanners. So you got your room temperature vulcanizing mold here that we're making these massive spanners. Lovely. So I would not consider chilling, because if you, okay, say I chilled it, open the fridge, which I had a fridge in the workshop, keep my beers in, open the fridge, take my rubber mold out, this beer in the fridge, okay, here we go, and we inject it with wax. Okay, the wax is going to cool down perhaps a little bit too quick. It's going to make the wax go off quicker, solidify, open it up, take the wax out, and I want to inject it again. But if I need to put it in the fridge, I'm going to have 5 or 10 minutes waiting for this to chill, or I've got multiple molds I keep putting in and out of the fridge. So no, I don't bother. I feel that it chills the wax too quickly. You've got no control over the flow of the wax, the cooling of the wax. You've got no control over any of it. So no, I don't even bother chilling it. I don't feel the need, because the wax will solidify in a matter of seconds. I do leave the molds to one side to allow the inside of the wax to solidify. So I would, yes, have 2 or 3 molds going at the same time, but no need to put them in the fridge. I want to keep complete control over what I'm doing. The mold cools down enough between the injections not to get too hot. And you also put your little bit of talcum powder in the mold as well to make sure it does separate from the mold nice and easily. Next question, please, my dear. I want a drink.
Elizabeth has just started using borax cone and dish instead of boric acid and denatured alcohol mix.
Yeah.
Finding the water keeps getting absorbed into the dish.
It does.
Tips?
It does. No, that's it. It does. It absolutely does. Yeah. So I've got my borax cone, my borax dish here. So what I would do, I give my little bit of water. There we go. I put it in my borax. Let's go on the overhead cam. So there's my, I'll show you, we will come back. We shall revisit my borax dish in a little while. So there we go. So there's my borax dish. Here is all the borax. There, okay. So what you'll find is that now, that is, oh, there we go. Nice look. That's a good one. I'm glad that camera's on. There we go. So let's get nice and close with this. So there we go. So there's my borax. Okay, it's nice and runny. It's a bit like single cream. It's looking good. Okay, so I will use it. Literally, I go back in 10 minutes and I go, it's dried up a little bit. So I just add a little bit more water. So the water gets absorbed by the cone. It also gets absorbed by the dish because the dish is not glazed, so it absorbs the water. There will come a point when that water will slow down being absorbed. So over the course of a day, every time you solder, you really just have to come along, a little bit of water, rub it a bit like that, or just put your paintbrush in it. Don't expect it to last. You're going to keep watering it throughout the day. Absolutely. So any tips? Yeah, just keep watering it. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Next question, please.
Okay. Tanya is... when soldering, I melt a piece of my silverwork. I melted a piece of my silverwork. I saved my 3D design, but how can I not do this mistake again? I was absolutely gutted.
Say that again. She's melted.
I melt a piece of my silverwork. I melt a piece of my silverwork. I saved my 3D design when soldering.
Right.
I melted.
Right.
Yeah.
How can she
avoid it happening again?
What, melting down? Melting it?
Melting it when soldering. Can we have some more detail?
Yeah, we need a bit more information. It's just obviously it depends on the torch. You've got to have the torch. If you're talking about you saved your design, 3D design, does that mean you saved it with the 3D design software, or does she mean, don't know what she means?
Can you give us a little bit more information, Tanya, a bit more detail, lovely, please?
Because usually it's all about your torch control and trying to have the torch flame when it goes away from you, it's going away from the piece. So the piece would be this side and the flame would be going over this way. If you had your piece over here and you're soldering by here, there's a chance that you're going to melt this area. So the placement of the piece that you're soldering, for instance, say I'm soldering a very thin bezel like this. Let me get another overhead cam for this one. Let's zoom on this one. There we go. So say I'm soldering this bezel, okay? Bezel, bezel, bezel. My solder joint now is going to be over here, okay? Over there. This is my solder joint. So when the torch goes on it, the flame is going away. So I can move the flame. This is a very basic example. So I can move the flame from here and I can bring the flame nearer, 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 and I can work on that joint nice and easily without the rest of the bezel here melting. But should I turn it around this way, the flame is always going now towards that bezel. So if I'm doing this and I'm soldering by here, but my flame goes above, there's a chance that this top half of the bezel here is going to melt. So always make sure that you keep the torch under control. I gotta just put that in the at a second because of something I'm working on. You've always got to keep that bit of metal safe. So don't let the flame stray. If the flame strays, there's a chance that it is going to melt. It's all about placement of the flame and making sure the flame is not resting on another piece of the work, because then that could overheat when you're actually looking at this part when it's being soldered. So take very good care on your placement of the piece and placement of the torch when you come to solder. May we have the next question, please, Louise?
Okay. Julia is asking, do you have a favourite saw frame, and if so, what do you like about it?
Okay. I have a saw frame that not here. There it is. So my most favourite saw frame is the one that I bought first when I was 18 years old. This is an Eclipse PS51. Okay, there's nothing to go wrong with it. It's easy. It's not complicated. It's just the frame. It's just the handle. It's as simple as that. Why do I like it? Because it's nothing to go wrong with it. I'm used to it. I'm used to the way it cuts The screw threads are fine. The little wing nuts suit me just fine. I've got no problems with this at all. I also like, let me get my saw frames from here. I also like my new concepts. The blade is broken. This one actually, I just found it to the side. Why do I like this one? Well, it has the little screws that locates put the blade in place, but I've also got this little swivel on the top of here as well that enables me to get the tension just right upon the blade. It just helps. It's not essential. It just sometimes helps if you break the blade. You don't have to keep doing this and pushing it in with your chest to change the blade or anything like that. It's nice, it's light, it's great if you've got a lot of piercing to do. It keeps the tension in nicely. It's nice, you know, you just get used to it. The one frame I hate, and people love these frames, but I personally hate them, are these. These are adjustable frames, yeah? You can, look, adjustable. What's the point? What's the point of having an adjustable frame? This would be my argument. Why would I want an adjustable frame when the blades are always the same size? So some of you are saying, well, if you break a blade, you can always make it a little bit smaller and bring the frame down and put the blade into place, and then we can saw it like this. What is the point? This bit sticks in your hand. Look, this bit sticks here. When you're sawing, it's painful. It's pointless. It's an extra bit of weight you've got to keep lifting up and down every single time. I bet how many of you within the chat have this type of saw blade and saw frame, and how many of you keep the frame at that size? How many of you will actually change the length of the blade, the frame, to suit your saw blade? If you choose to use your broken saw blades, great. But why is the blade broken? All right, yes, I know. But you've got to remember is that one end of the saw blade is not tempered. It's not brittle. It's quite soft because that's where you clamp it. The other end, it's broken where the teeth are, and it's very, very brittle. So what's the point of trying to clamp it when it's really, really brittle? Because it's going to break in seconds again. And this bit gets me every single time. So, and the handle is rubbish. The handles might as well not even be there. The handle's so small. So I'm passionately against, personally, this frame. Oh, but I love this frame. Nothing to go wrong. Too many clamps, too heavy, pointless. Let me know in the chat what you think. I get a bit too excited, to be honest, Louise. Next question, Louise.
We were just talking about the spinner ring, flarer.
Yeah.
Kristen's having it for Christmas, and you've demoed it on the live. Is there another film of you?
There is on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, there's Kristen, there's a demo video on YouTube of the.
Yeah, it's the last film we did.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, so that might be of help to you, lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But make sure that when you do it, make sure that the band is evenly annealed, because I have heard there's been one or two people who don't get the flares exactly right. Sometimes it's because one part of the band, the band that you're flaring, is not annealed, so the annealed part is going to bend more so than the other. So just make sure that the band is nicely annealed when you do it. If you do find that one side is flaring more than the other, stop, take it out, anneal the side that is not flaring, but don't anneal the other side, and then put it back in, because then that bit of metal is going to be nice and soft and you should be able to flare it, no worries. Yeah, next question then please, Louise.
Okay, Siri is asking tips on what kind of third hand to use and special techniques for soldering two small half domes to a hollow beads/ball.
Okay, third hand, there is basically just one, for me, just one particular type of third hand, and that is just like this. This is like a weighted base. It has a bit of an articulated joint, as you can see. It's supposed to have a little bit of felt or rubber on the bottom, but this hasn't. This is completely worn off. And these are great because you can just move this around and clamp it wherever you want to clamp it. I always recommend these. These are cross nose bent, no they're not, they're bent nose cross lock tweezers. So you squeeze the handles, they open up. These fit nicely into the third hand. Tighten that up and you've got this. And this then will go anywhere. You can turn it on its side, you can turn it on its end, you can turn it wherever you want to. And this, for me, is the best third hand that you can get. You can get some with big crocodile clips and so forth. Yeah, they're okay. You can get the GRS third hands that locate upon the bench mate and the soldering attachment that goes onto your dovetail plate. I don't even bother. These sort of things, these are cheapest chips. They come in a box. Sometimes they come with a bent nose. Sometimes they'll come with straight nose, cross-lock tweezers. But yeah, they'll last you for years and years and years. If you want to get one of them, get another one so you can have two from side by side. So you want to solder two hemispheres together? Yeah? As well? That was the question, yeah?
Sorry, I just...
Sorry, Louise, it was two hemispheres?
Third hand to use in special techniques for soldering two small half domes onto a hollow bead or ball.
So do they mean a hollow bead and they've got a hemisphere like that? Yeah, is that what we mean?
Two small half domes onto a hollow bead or ball. Yeah.
Like that, yeah?
Oh, like a teddy.
Like all Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
I was going to say, but I can't draw Mickey Mouse. I have ever drawn Mickey Mouse in my life. So what would I do?
Why would you?
I don't know. So I think what I would do would be to, there's your half dome. It has a bit of an edge to it, doesn't it? There's your half dome. There's your reflection. So this is your half dome. What I would do is flux this bottom edge and I would put some solder pallions on it, and I would actually turn it that way up. There we go. So there's your dome. I would put some solder pallions on it. I would flood that with solder. So there's solder
into a hollow bead. Sorry, not onto.
Into a hollow.
Into, yeah.
So solder that inside something. Inside a hollow bead. So we have.
You're putting the hollow bead. Are you putting the bead inside the dome then?
Is that, yeah? Or half a hemisphere inside inside?
That wouldn't
So
work.
so would you have another big dome like that and you're soldering that inside?
Into a hollow bead, not onto.
So you solder them together to make a hollow bead.
Oh!
Yeah? Is that what they mean?
Is that what you mean? So
Yeah.
you solder the two halves of a bead together to make a
hollow bead.
hollow round
bead. Yeah? Is that what they mean? Yeah? That's the case. Do it this way. Yeah. Okay, there are two ways you can do it. What I would do is two ways. Get them exactly the same size, put a little bit of solder, flux it on the one side.
2.5 domes into a hollow bead. Yeah, sorry Siri, we got you, yeah.
Okay, so then I would have my, this is my one dome here. I would put that directly on the top. Then I would get a little bit of wire, some binding wire, and I would wrap the binding wire around and around the other side so that it comes around like that. And what I would do then is grab it with a pair of pliers. These are my pliers. I would get the end there so we twist it together. If you want to go on to Pablo...
Susan is saying make sure the bead is vented.
No, don't need it. Not when you're making a bead. When you come to heat it afterwards, you need a hole. You don't need a hole in it when you're soldering it.
Because you're not melting it.
Because you're not heating up the air inside.
Yeah.
The air is already heated up inside, so you don't necessarily need to vent it.
Okay.
So when it comes to this side here, then I would twist this, and that goes around the other side, and that would be twisted there. So then you can twist it to pull the sides together, and again do exactly the same thing on this side, and you'd have that. Yeah, so you got your wire then is pulling it and holding it together. Then you'd heat it up and the solder would melt, or you do that with the flux and you put some pallions of solder here and here, and then the solder will melt along the joint. But the binding wire to hold it together would be the best thing to do. But yeah, but not Helen, what's the lady's name? Susan. If you are heating up a bead from cold, you have to make sure there's a hole in it. If you're putting together a bead that is hollow, you don't need a vented hole in it because you're heating up the air inside. The air.
Will the bead not collapse when quenched?
No, if it's going to be thick enough, and the majority of the time it's going to be thick enough, and it would have to be a huge bead because of the contraction. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But usually
that wasn't me asking. I didn't ask an intelligent question. Didn't get excited.
Yeah. So I have never ever made a hole in a bead when I've made it, and it is never ever quenched. I've never had the need to. If you want to, you can do. Make a small little hole. Sometimes the design doesn't call for a hole, and then you've got a hole in it, and you've got to try and fill in the hole. So what's the point?
Absolutely do that if you're melting.
If then you've made this bead and you're soldering this bead onto something else, you're heating up a cold bead, you're heating up the cold air, the air has to go somewhere, then you would make a hole in it to allow the air to escape. But I understand what it means, because we used to do a fantastic, I used to love science when I was in school. We had like an oil can, used to fill it with water, heat it up with the top off, so then the water's evaporating, yeah, and the steam's coming out. Screw the top on, then as it cools, the air contracts and it goes, and it all contracts on itself. I understand what you mean, but usually on something that is so small, and you're not going to make these beads really, really thin, because it'd be silly to make it too thin, because you won't solder it properly, and then when you come to file the edge, you're going to be filing it away. So usually these are going to be thick enough, the bead won't collapse now.
Cool.
Next question.
Anko is asking about your spanner bangle. How did you end up making it?
I haven't made it yet. So last week I talked about it initially, but what we did was that we got a spanner. My idea was to bend the spanner around into the bangle shape. That was my idea. But the customer, the client, got me a bangle that does not bend, a spanner that does not bend. So no matter what I did, I couldn't bend the snap-on bangle. Few more sessions in the gym, yeah.
But by their very nature, they're not supposed to be bendy, are they? If you've got a spanner that bends when you apply force to it, then it's not a very good spanner, is it?
It's true, but you're only applying force on the thickest, the widest edge, so yeah, I understand that. But I wanted to bend it. Couldn't bend it, no matter what. I heated it up, wouldn't even bend. So I had to make what was a rubber mold. This, and then the rubber mold that I was going to make, I didn't have a mold frame big enough for it. Yeah, that makes sense. Is that the, yeah, this one will do. So I didn't have a mold.
Oh, that one bends.
Oh. So I didn't have a frame big enough to make a rubber mold. So I had to make a room temperature vulcanizing mold. The frame I had was too small, had to put two frames together. I got a spanner, I put a bit of wax there, and I put that in the frame, like that. That was in the frame. Hang on, this way now. No, this way. So that was in my frame, and I poured the room temperature vulcanizing solution into the frame. I couldn't vacuum it. My vacuum chamber was not deep enough to allow it, so I hoped that we wouldn't get too many air bubbles, and we didn't get any air bubbles at all on the thing itself. Then we injected it with wax, and we've got these. That was what, please. So it took me a few goes, I must admit, because it's a huge length of wax, and I think I did about 6 or 7, and I managed to get one perfect one. I had a few problems towards the end on this one here, but that was it. That is my spanner. So now I've got to cast that in silver. I've got yet another problem. My flasks are not this deep. So that is deep. My flasks only come up to here. My flasks are about 4 or 5 inch. So this is too big for a flask. So what I've got to do, I've got to try and warm it up and bend it around into the bangle shape. Then I'll sprue from this end and this end into one, and hopefully try and cast it. So that's the idea. So I don't particularly make these. I'm just making this as a particular one-off for a client.
Thing, apparently, isn't it?
It's a thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's a thing. And I've got a wax that is quite flexible as well. So I've had this flax. This is a Castaldo wax. You can see it's quite flexible as it is. So I'm hoping that if I can just warm that up slightly like that, bend it a little bit further, I can bend it around so I'll be able to cast it. So that is what I'm doing with my spanners. Maybe have the next, and I will post the little picture on socials when it's all done. Maybe have a next question. Stop playing.
I always want to.
Maybe have a next question, please.
Dalen is asking, should I invest in an ultrasonic cleaner to remove the polishing compound off my pieces? Are there any ways to properly clean off the polishing compound, and what brand would you recommend?
You really do have to spend a really reasonable amount of money on an ultrasonic. You can buy really cheap ones say from wherever you are in the world, I don't know, but Aldi, Lidl, that sort of thing. But they're not real ultrasonics. They're not proper professional ultrasonics. Sonorex is a good brand. Sonorex is a good brand to buy. So's Elmer. But you have to be spending £200, £300 plus for a good ultrasonic. Have a heater within it. It makes more sense to have a heater. It doesn't matter whether the timer is a mechanical timer or whether it's electronic timer. It doesn't really matter. I would always try and go for a mechanical timer, to be honest, because you have less problems with that than the electronic ones that I've got. Yeah, I've had a Sonorex in my time. I've got an Elmer at the moment. Elmer, this is my third one in 2 years, so I haven't had much luck. The digital controls keep going, and this one has twin transducers. That's little things that send the waves up. One of them breaks. So yeah, hasn't been a good model, the one that I've got, but Elmer are a very, very good brand, and I have had no problems. They've exchanged it every single time I've had a problem. So did I say what wattage there? Look at the wattage on the ultrasonics. Obviously, the higher the wattage, the better. Have I got a spare ultrasonic around here? I've got a Durston ultrasonic. Let me have a look. Is there anything on this one that said anything? Just bear with me a second, chaps. We will have a look. Oh, no, I've got a Durston one, but there's no information on it whatsoever, so I don't know. But obviously, the higher the wattage, the higher the frequency, the better. Just have a look on the website. Have a look at Elmer website, Sonorex website. Just check on the frequency. The higher the frequency, the better the cleaning, but also the noisier it is as well. But make sure it has a heater. May we have the next question, please, Louise? If you can stop eating your chocolate coin. It's not Christmas yet.
It's Michael's fault, he said chocolate. Mandy is asking, is there any danger from trapped air when heating hammered copper pipe, hammered flat or air chased, or is it okay provided it hasn't been soldered at the ends?
Yeah, you should be okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. If you do solder the ends, you can do, but again, if you come to heat it up again, or if you're still hammering it and there's air within it, usually the air will disperse out through it, perhaps through a bit of a crack in it, or perhaps a solder joint that hasn't quite worked exactly right. But if you come to heat it up again, like we were talking about with the spheres that have gone, you need to have a hole in it. Otherwise, yes, I wouldn't say that the tube's likely to blow up, but you want to make sure that the air comes out. But yeah, you should be fine. You should be fine. May we have a next question, please, Louise?
Kristen is asking, how can I set a very thin cabochon in a bezel?
With a very, very low height bezel. But it has to be thin, the thin metal. So make sure that it isn't too thick. I think, obviously, the deeper, the higher the bezel, the thicker the metal could be, because you've got greater leverage pushing it over. But if the height of the bezel is quite short, so here's the base, here's the bezel here. If you have something that's this sort of high, you've got the leverage. You can push here and the bezel's going to bend from here, isn't it? All right, that sort of idea. But if you've got a short bezel like that and you try and push here, okay, it won't bend. It's not going to bend. So you're going to have to go for quite a thin bezel. So in proportion wise, thickness to length is the same for here. So if it has it nice and thin, you should be able to push that over. So yeah, it has to be very thin. And then you have problems then when it comes to soldering. You've got to make sure your joints are gorgeous and perfect, and yeah. So that's the best thing, thin bezel, if it's not too high. Louise, fire us another question, my love.
Okay, Kenneth is asking, could you please give me any tips with adjusting the set screws on the Durston ring sizer and heavy duty bender?
So are you talking about the one that is like that? And then you have that goes into a block like that, and then you have your handle on there, and that goes into, is that what you mean? This is circular, obviously. Yeah, is that what you mean? And there's a frame that goes on the outside of here with 2 screws in. Is that what you mean? It's these screws? What you mean? And looking down on top, you'll have 1 screw and then you have 2 screws within the frame. And then this die fits within here like that. Is it these screws here? If it is these screws, what I would advise you to do is pull the handle down, make sure that this, what's it called? Not eccentric, it's E something, isn't it? Off center, concentric, whatever. If this, make sure, pull the handle down, make sure this comes down so it comes down and touches the die. When it does touch the die, I would then put these screws and screw these screws in to hold the die in place. That then will keep the die exactly where it should be. If you happen to, can you see that? Yeah. If you happen to screw these so it's further over than what it should be, you have a problem when you try and bend the metal when it goes through. So loosen the screws, take the screws away, put this loose in the bottom, handle down, this comes into place. It locates in the grooves of this, then tighten it up, and that'll be exactly the right spot for that die to be in. I think that's what you mean. If it isn't, just let me know in the chat. How about saws? Which is your favourite saw? Do you like this saw? Do you like this saw? Who's for these saws? Who's for this saw? Next question, please, Louise. Ooh.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks, yeah.
Okay, Amco is asking, how do I know my closed ingot mould is hot enough to make 4mm wire? The silver doesn't go deep enough into the mould. The silver was certainly hot enough, or what else could be wrong? You only really need to take the chill off it. It doesn't have to be hot or anything. Before we go any further, can we just settle a debate? What grit emery paper do you use?
600. Yeah? 600 grit. Yeah?
Let's just say 700.
No, it's 600. It's 600.
I'm gonna say 700.
You can't, there's no such thing as 700 grit, Louise.
Make it then.
No, it's 600 grit. 600 grit. Don't bother with anything else. Don't waste your time. Just buy 600 grit paper. Is that okay? Have we settled the argument? Okay, next question, please, Louise. 600. What's...
Did you ask Amco? Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry, Amco, that was very
There is no set temperature, as I said. Usually it's just to take the chill off so there isn't too much of a thermal shock when the metal goes in. If you're talking about the one that is... if you're talking about the one that is like that is split, and then you got the pour at the bit. If it's like that one that goes in and it opens up and there's the channels on the inside. If it's that one, there's a clamp that goes around the outside then to hold that in place. If it is that one, they are a little bit of a pain to sort out. But you've got to make sure that when you pour, it goes straight into the hole, not on the side, but goes down into the hole. Make sure you've got enough silver. If you've only got a small amount of silver, that's rubbish. It isn't going to work. You've got to have a lot of silver being sort of, you know, if you think about a little child jumping into a swimming pool, right? It goes la la, okay? But you get a big hefty bloke to do the same thing. He is going to go in the water deeper, faster, isn't he, than a little child. So think of it about that way. You've got a small amount of metal. It's only going to go in here, and by the time it gets sort of halfway down, it's cooled and it's not all the way down to the bottom. But you've got a lot of metal. You can pour it in because there's a lot of metal, there's a lot of mass to it. It'll stay molten for longer. So I would always try and at least half to 3/4 fill these little wire molds with the molten metal, because you're going to get a better result of an ingot once you've done it. May we have the next question, please, Louise?
Right.
Sorry.
Henke is trying to set an amethyst pear stone in a basket setting. Struggling to make a proper basket setting for the stone. The stone is 8 by 6 mil. Any suggestions? Also, what size wire should I use?
Basket, pear shape. Yep, pear shape.
A basket setting
for a pear shape.
A pear-shaped amethyst.
Okay, the easiest way to do it is just to have 4 claws on this and not worry about the little V claws that go on the end. Because if you have a pear shape, you've got 2 options, okay? My 2 pear shapes. 4 claw, 1, 2, 3, 4, easy peasy. 3 claw, V on the top, 1 there, 1 there. So for me, this one is going to be a lot easier to make up than this one, because these little V's here a little bit tricky when it comes to set, because you've got to make sure there's a little pocket on the end of the point so it doesn't damage the point. This one does not give the stone much protection on the end, so it's up to the wearer to take care with this. 8 by 6, 1 millimeter wire. What's 1 millimeter in? What's the gauge? What's 1 millimeter in gauge? 16? I should know these by now, shouldn't I? 1 mil. Where's 1 mil? 18. 18 gauge. There you go. 18 gauge metal for 1 mil. That's what I would use, and perhaps have a double basket and put the claws on the outside. That's what I would use. Any hints and tips? Or what we're doing now on At the Bench, I think there's another film going out. I don't think the films went out last week. Oh my gosh, no. Or make up a bezel that is pear shape, like that. Pear shape bezel. Make sure your stone fits exactly on the top, and then you can just simply solder claws on the outside of that bezel. Make life easy. Solder your claws like that. Does that make sense? So get a bit of wire like that, 1 millimeter wire, cross them over, solder, bend these wires down like that so they cross over in those 4 places. Then you can simply solder the wire without them all moving out of the way. But yeah, 4s is much easier. At the bench, we're doing that at the moment. Okay, we're going to do all the setting. We're going to do ovals, we're going to do rounds, we're going to do pear shapes, we're going to marquee shapes, bezels, add-in, claws at the bench. Yeah. Next question, please, Louise. You want to, Louise?
Yeah, I'm fine, yeah. Just somebody put something that made me laugh. What was I going to say? Right, Stefan, do you happen to know of a good gift for a goldsmith that basically has everything? Wanted to gift something else than just metals. Put it in the chat. You're all goldsmiths, metalsmiths.
Metalsmiths.
Yeah. What's your dream present? You're all going to say rolling mill now, aren't you?
What's your? Yeah. What's it? Yeah.
What's yours? What would be your dream gift?
To receive.
To receive. Out of everything that you've got or could potentially have, what would you?
At the moment, we're into texture plates because we're making these bangles, aren't we? I would say a dome set, because that's pretty. Do I get frothy about my store frames? I do get very passionate about store frames. What would if I wanted to have one tool given me? I'll tell you what I would have. I know this sounds really boring, but I'd have to have a lovely, gorgeous, perhaps a frets goldsmithing hammer, because a hammer you can do so much with. You can hammer things with it, you can texture things with it, you can rivet it, you can fold form. It's got a nice planished face to it. This is the nice little goldsmithing with a cross peen hammer. Yeah, frets, nice, expensive, 40 odd pounds for a hammer. It beats paying £1 for a cheapy hammer like this. They do the same thing, but it's always nice to have a nice quality piece of equipment like that you respect, you look after. So you wouldn't go banging a nail in with this hammer, you just look after it. So I think, yeah, a nice hammer like that. It's really boring, I know. Perhaps a nice little bench block as well. Or, tell you what I would have.
Spinner ring flarer.
No, they're very limited to make spinner rings, that's it. What I would have is your Benchmade GRS system. Dovetail plate, you can then put that on, which is your bench peg. You can take that off. This is the old one. And then you can then put, this is the original Benchmade back from when Noah built the ark, I think, this one. So this is the original Benchmade, and I love this. You can see how dusty it is. This is one of the first ones I ever bought. I bought that, imported that from America. This was the best present to myself one Christmas because my setting absolutely got 100 times better because you got two hands free. Yeah, so again, I get very passionate about this. So yeah, Benchmade I would have if I had to have a present. Thank you. But this is the old one. I do have the new one downstairs that I use, but this is the old one. There we go. How about that? What would other people like to have?
Yeah, put it in the chat. I'd love to see.
Yeah. Okay, next question.
Next question. Bead Demon is asking, is it better to prong set a heart-shaped cabochon, or will a bezel setting be fine?
Bezel setting will be fine. Easily make it up in two halves. One bit of metal that does that, one bit of metal that does that. And then you just put the two together, you make sure that your stone fits in, and then you come to solder them together. Yeah, that's nice. A nice bezel set, heart-shaped stone, really does look nice. Bear with me, because I got one out here that I just put in the cabinet the other day. Oh my God, it's dark out here, Louise, I'm scared. Oh my gosh.
Be brave, Andrew.
Be brave.
Put the light on.
Be brave. Be brave, Andrew.
Jump over a box.
I can't find it. It's not in there. It's not where I thought.
This week in this place, people falling over.
Oh no, Jason went flying today.
You laughed.
Of course I laughed. It was funny.
It wasn't funny. He
Is
hurt
it,
himself.
no, it was funny. I can't find it.
He really hurt his knee.
I know he did, didn't he? He better be in work tomorrow. So
That's what I said. Elevate your leg now, Jason. He was going, I'm fine, I'm fine. It's like, you're not fine. Get those peas on your knee. He was like, I'm okay. It's like, you won't be okay if you can't get to work tomorrow. Bezel set, it looks lovely. Next question, please, Louise, whilst I eat my chocolate money. A what?
Eat my chocolate money.
Where'd you get that from?
I just ready to bench, I walked past.
Okay, we've done the gift recommendations. Getting a fair price for your work. We did that last week, or was it the week before?
Week before.
We talked about that at some length, didn't we?
We did.
Was it last week or was it the week before? Does anyone remember?
About 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, going back to gifts, pendant motor. Not a micro motor, pendant motor if you don't have one. Yeah, next question, please, Louise.
Okay. This is the 37th Q&A.
Really? Wow, that's good, isn't it? 37th.
Yeah.
And that is my only thing that we've gone for about 9 goes. But yeah, there's still a lot to talk about.
Okay, Mary is asking about silver stacking ring. Wants to make a silver stacking ring and add a gold thinner ring, a spinner ring to it and solder it together. Can I still use silver soldering to the gold ring? Yes,
you can, because it makes no real difference. It's going to be cheaper for you to use silver solder than it is to buy a panel. I bought a panel of gold solder today, 9 carat yellow solder, a panel, £45 plus the VAT. That is, for me, that's scandalous, isn't it? £45 when you can get a bit of silver solder for a fraction, for a couple of pounds. So I would not waste your money. Use some silver solder. He's got a nice husband if he just bought a Benchmade, Fordham flank shaft and a jeweller's bench.
You'd be divorcing me and marrying Jimmy's husband.
Right, okay. Next question. Yeah, lovely. Yes, that's nice, Sam.
Okay. Ashley is asking, can a barrel polisher alter the shape of the bezel wire on pieces?
If it's too thin, I would say yes. If there's a lot of space within the barrel that the shot comes over and really does hammer the edge of the bezel, it could put it out of shape. Perhaps what I would do is fill it up a little bit fuller with shot so you don't get a huge amount of force when the shot comes over when it tumbles. That's what I would do, I think, or put quite a few pieces in. But if you are using very, very thin metal, like a fine silver, sort of like 1/5 of a millimeter, something like that, then yes, I would say it will slightly damage the bezel. So just take care, just polish it by hand. It's far better finish in the long run than just to barrel polish it. Next question, please, Louise. I finished my chocolate. Now I'm getting more chocolate. I forgot sweet.
Another one?
I have one more, please. I finished my chocolate.
If you can catch it, you can have it.
Or to throw it properly. Whee! Thank you.
Okay. Kristen's asking, throw it like a girl. Is it possible to oxidize a silver ring after setting the stone?
Yeah. Use some platinol or use some liver sulfur. Put it on a Q-tip. I know the American language in this place.
Look at you getting down with the Americans.
Use a Q-tip, but take very, very good care. Or use something like a toothpick, cocktail stick, if you want to just put it into some very intricate areas and keep it away from the stone, yes. Or get something like some rubber cement and paint that over the edge of the stone, and perhaps if you've got the bezel, your stone is here and this is your bezel that comes over onto the stone. I would perhaps run a little line of some rubber cement by here around the edge of the stone so the solution doesn't go underneath and discolor underneath. That's what I would do. But yeah, platinol, keep it away from the edge of the bezel and the stones, yes. Question, please, Louise.
Inez, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce your name properly. Can you please remind me of the formula to make a bezel for a round stone?
I had this wrong last week. I did pi r squared, but that was the area. Pi d, where d is the diameter. So you have, that's the diameter. It's 3.142 times the diameter. So that's the exact measurement. Sorry, I got a bit of, I just eaten the chocolate. That's the exact measurement. But your bezel wire, your bearing wire has a little bit of a width about it, a depth. So what I would be inclined to do would be to do pi times the okay, let's do this in brackets. So d plus thickness. Okay, so diameter plus the thickness of your bezel wire times that by 3.142. So do that first. The diameter plus the thickness of your wire. Don't know why I got two eyes there. Yeah, times 3.142. So that would be d plus the thickness.
Oh.
Yes.
Sorry, there was another bit to the last question.
Yeah.
I just caught up.
Go on.
With the oxidizing, the stone
Yes.
is a boulder opal.
A boulder opal. Ooh. Definitely try and keep it away from the opal. Definitely.
That changes everything.
Ooh. Or use your rubber cement and just paint it over the opal and on the edge where the oxidizing solution would get in. Keep it away, definitely. Or perhaps even use something like a paintbrush and just gently paint it on, but don't put too much on, definitely. But keep it away from the opal, definitely keep it away from the opal. May I have another question?
I'm going to skip forward to Scrap Over Engineering. I'm so sorry, I don't know your real name.
What is your name, Scrap Over Engineering?
Yeah, what's your real name? Yesterday my molten silver sort of exploded. I had no hollow objects in there. It was completely molten and was heating it some more. What happened? Did I trap some gas?
Sounds like it, doesn't it?
Is that even possible? There was sort of a pop when it happened. I used an oxypropane set, which I adjust to be a bit fuel rich.
does sound like there is a little bit of a pocket underneath, doesn't it, that would expand and pop open.
Oh, that's so scary,
So
though, isn't it?
this is why, yeah, I'd always recommend you wear an apron at least, and also some eye protection as well. Always do that. One of my past employees found out to his
Poor Colin, yeah.
bad luck.
He was so lucky, wasn't he?
So yeah, definitely make sure, and also perhaps when you're melting down and you've got your crucible, perhaps melt down, you know, say, for argument's sake, looking down on top of your crucible, here's the area, here's the pouring spout by here, and you've got all your metal in here. Perhaps what I would do is try and melt from the one side, and melt 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 that way. So you're passing your torch through, so you're melting it all the time, and then this bit of metal here is then being taken into here. Perhaps what you may have done was, if you've got all your molten metal, all of this around here, you may be passing your torch around and around and around and around, and it's all melting, it's all melting, it's all melting, it's all coming to the middle, and if there's a little bit of an air pocket underneath, then perhaps that would explode. So that might be the problem. So that's why I always, it's strange that you do these things, we don't really reason why you do it, but you do it naturally. So yeah, so if there's all scrap and lemel here, I would get my torch, you know, from here and start to melt and melt and melt and melt and melt and bring it all together. Don't go round and round and round.
Madge uses a graphite stick to poke it so impurities and trapped gas can escape.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm like graphite. The only time I use a graphite rod is actually when I'm using it to clear off perhaps some of the bits and pieces when I'm casting, centrifugal casting. Some people do swear by graphite rods. Some people will have a wooden stick and use a wooden stick because then the wood slightly burns. That would cause the same sort of graphite carbon effect. And some people will actually use a wooden stick to stir it. But yeah, you can stir it, or as it's melting, perhaps and you've got it in the crucible holder or a whip, as you're melting it, whichever hand you're melting it with and you're holding this in, perhaps as it's starting to melt, you just agitate the crucible and perhaps spin the crucible, tap the crucible.
This is what was happening, sorry, it's Martin, not Scrap.
Martin.
Sorry, I called you Scrap earlier in the chat. It was already completely molten and I was swirling and tapping it.
So it sounds like, yeah, it could well be something that was in there that would just cause a little bit of a pocket.
Keep your eye protection on.
Yeah, definitely eye protection all the time.
Absolutely.
Next question, please. Martin. Is it Martin from Scrap Over Engineering?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Martin.
Okay. So Natalia is asking, is it true that you're meant to season your rawhide mallet so you don't punch the lacquer into the metal, just hit against concrete or?
Now, see, some people do this, don't they? Some people will get a brand new rawhide mallet. Let me just grab one from over here. Okay, we just got some brand new mallets from Durston. Actually, so brand new, they've actually got the, that's a weighted one, that one. We got some brand new mallets. So, yes, I understand what you mean. This is a nice rawhide mallet. Durston Tools, haven't used it yet, looks a pretty good one. Not too sure on this because usually you have the hole on the top to stop the handle from coming off, but this one doesn't, so I'm not too sure how that handle's being fastened in there. So we're just gonna have a bit of a play around. Have a bit of a play around with that. So some people will season them, some people will get them against a brick wall and start to hammer it against a brick wall, against a pavement, against a slab, a paving slab, that sort of thing. Just to try and remove some of the lacquer off the face. I've never ever done that. I just simply get my mallet and I just start to bash hell out of it, to be honest, because there's always going to be lacquer inside because it's like a lacquer and it's been rolled up, so there's always going to be lacquer in between. Swiss roll, isn't it? That's what it is. So the lacquer is the cream in a Swiss roll, the cream and the jam. I've had Swiss roll for ages. Anyway,
your analogies are just crazy.
So Swiss roll, okay? You've got your jam and your cream within the Swiss roll. There'll always be jam and cream in a Swiss roll. we're on about hammers now, aren't we? So there's always going to be lacquer in the hammer, isn't there? So no matter what you do, there's always be lacquer. Admittedly, it's on the face here, but as soon as you start to bash that against something hard, against a bit of metal, whatever, it won't necessarily force that lacquer into the metal. No, it'll just start to soften up. Just like this one has here. You can do, some people want to season it. It sounds good, but I don't have time to go out and start bashing my mallet against a wall or anything like that. So no, I would just simply start to get it. New mallet, all right, let's start getting your mandrel, and let's start getting your mandrel. Let's start bashing it against the ring. I haven't got time. Sorry, I'm getting passionate again. May we have a next question, please, Louise? Swiss roll. Go for Swiss roll. Oh, tell you what we can have this time of year. Yule log.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Cum Bakery, last orders 15th of December I saw for their Christmas Yule log. Oh, can you imagine that? Lovely Christmas Yule log. Chocolate. So, sorry, next question, please.
Okay. Sorry if I can't pronounce your name. Do you have any experience with vibratory tumblers? Trying to find an efficient manner of polishing soldered jump rings without having to use my polishing equipment.
I've never used a vibratory tumbler polisher. I haven't, no. I think for me, what I've seen, they're quite big. What I have done in the past, soldered jump rings, yeah, you want to clean them, pop them in the acid, get them all nice and stripped and get them nice and clean. Then get a steel rod, okay? Put all your jump rings on a steel rod, hold either end so your jump rings are in this area by here. Then you get your polishing motor, your bench mounted polishing motor. You do that against your polishing motor. They spin, turn it this way so it gets polished all around. And that's the way I would polish up lots and lots of jump rings. Or put them in a barrel polisher. Do it that way. I did have an eco polish, I think it's called, and that was a wet and a dry polish, and that was like a disc that went around in the bottom that you used to put some tumble material like walnut shells or some ceramic chips if it was wet. I had them many years ago because we were doing lots and lots of bangles, and it was easy to put the bangles in the pot, that rotary, and then come back the next day and they were pretty much all polished. But it's a lot of potch, it's a lot of hassle if it's just for jump rings. But a barrel polisher, or put them on a rod, put them on a wire, a knitting needle, that sort of thing. And then when you put it against your bench mounted polishing motor, you can move it around, you can move them around. They're spinning around on the rod or piece of wooden, put them on a wooden dowel, thin wooden dowel. What are they called? Skewers, like for barbecue. Impregnate the skewer with some polish. Rub your tripoli up and down it so it's polished. So when you put your jump rings over the top of the skewer and they're spinning round, they're polishing the insides of the jump rings as well. Oh, great idea. Sorry, next question please, Louise.
Okay, Paul is asking, you do not quench your work but put straight into the acid. Why do you do this? Does the extra heat and effective quench in the acid help?
Yeah, people tell you, don't they? Don't quench it in the acid, because if you quench it in the acid, the surface will absorb some of the acid and blah, blah, blah. I've never found any problems at all quenching in acid. I don't have time to have a piece, to quench it in the water, and then put it in the acid and wait for it to pickle. I don't have time, because that is, for me, that's wasted time. I would rather get my piece, obviously don't put it into the acid straight away because it'll spit. Wait for it to cool down a little bit, perhaps wait till there's like a bit of a black heat about it so there's no glow or anything like that. Wait a little bit, then put it in the acid, then put it in the water, and it should be fine. That's far quicker for me. I can work so much faster than having to quench it, put it in there, wait or do something else and then come back to it. I don't have time. For me, time is money. And I want to keep working fast, and that's the way I do it. People will tell you don't do it. I've never ever found any reason not to do it, except if you're doing your hollow pieces. You don't want to quench a hollow item in acid or water at all. I would wait for a hollowed item. See, we were talking about the 2 hollowed spheres. I would wait for those to cool down first, then I would put that into the acid or the safety pickle, because if you quench it, the air inside will cool very quickly, as Susan just said right at the beginning. It quenches very quickly. The air will contract, and if there's any little air holes, it'll suck the acid or suck the water into it. So then when you heat it back up, it'll squirt out, and that could be quite dangerous. So if you have any hollow items, wait for them to cool down completely until you can touch them, then put them in the acid, and that will quench them nicely. Can we have a couple more questions? What's the time? 5 past. Yeah, let's have a question. We're talking about fruitcake, jewelled fruitcake.
Mike is asking how you really feel about adjustable saw frames.
Hate them. Hate them. They're just, to me, pointless. Because these bits get in the way. You've got these extra has anybody actually put up a decent enough argument in the chat saying why we should buy adjustable saw frames? Why? We don't need them. If your saw blade breaks, it breaks for a reason. Don't reuse it, because it's accurate. When you're sawing for the whole length, if you've got 6 inches, use the 6 inches. That's what I say. So you're sawing up and down the whole length, okay? Nice, easy strokes. You've broken your blade, you put it in your adjustable, it's 3 inches long. You're like this. You don't get any accuracy, you don't get any neatness. The line will be doing this back and forth. This bit will be bashing into the back of your hand. You'll have a big nasty bruise on the back of your hand. It's not good for you. Sorry, next question please, Louise.
Okay, Fernando is asking, can you comment on how to connect stone settings for necklaces? Like in these big necklaces with lots of stone settings linked with each other. On the internet, I've seen how to connect them for bracelets, but I haven't found anything on necklaces.
We did quite an article on this, a few films on this a couple of years ago now on At the Bench, on linking different forms in which ways you can do it. For me, the easiest way of doing it would be, and I think I know what you're on about. You're on about the bracelets, yeah? So for argument's sake, I know this isn't what you're on about necklaces, but what you'll find is that there will be a hole in there, yep, like that, okay? And then the rest of that comes around there. And then on this side here, you then would have that, wouldn't you? Yep, and that end then goes in here, there's a little hole, the pin comes through, out there and comes through that way. Yep, and that's how you would link together a bracelet, okay? So it's hinged, fantastic. You can do exactly the same thing with necklaces. There is an easier way. Much, much easier way, okay? Side view, 2 bezels. That's so easy to draw. All right, there you are. Use your stone on top. There we go. There's your stone, like that, inside here. However you want to join them. This should be dotted because this is inside. This is inside, okay? Easiest thing to do, drill a hole here. Let's just have this here. There we go. So you drill a hole. You drill a hole. You got a hole. Okay? Piece of wire. Pass a bit of wire through from side to side. If you've got a really, really small torch, you get your bit of wire, make a ball on the one side. You can pass that through into that side. So the ball would be here inside the setting. You'd pass that through. Then, depending if you've got a gorgeous little Smith's little torch, you can pass the flame here on the inside. You can melt that little ball there. So that is a captive. They're not going to come apart. And that would be a really good way of doing it. Or what you could do is, I know time's pressing on, this will be the last question I think. Or what you can do is have your bit of wire, solder your wire here, bring it around like this so it comes into there, out the bottom and solder it down there. So it goes through the hole here, inside, and it comes out and you can solder there. And that's how some bracelets are done as well, just like that there. So that would be another way of putting them together. Got one more question. Go on, go on, go on, go on, go on.
One more.
One more. There's somebody there who's been commenting and who's saying Andrew's drawing was getting better then, back then, just above the last lot of chat then. Madge.
Okay. Saw frame.
Hi Shelley, love the website. Looking really, really cool. Do love the website. Shelley, pop your website down there. Louise will let that go through. Shelley, pop your website. Absolutely good. Lovely, wasn't it? We looked at that the other night, didn't we? Gorgeous. The photographs, spot on. Shelley, put it down. Let's everyone have a look at it, please. Next question, please, Louise.
Javier? I'm sorry, I'm not doing so well with the names on my today. Do you have any tips for setting zirconium stones in lost wax models?
Is this as in cubic zirconia, or are we talking about zirconium metal or zirconium material? We don't know. I would not trust cubic zirconias in lost wax unless they are special stones, because they're going to need, especially you can do rubies and diamonds, sapphires, corundums, that sort of thing, because of the heat involved. I don't think CZs are really going to withstand the sudden shock of the metal coming in myself. That's about it.
Okay.
Susan,
I've enjoyed the
badge.
I've enjoyed the gift wrapping video demonstration.
We did. It was Louise's idea. Anyway, shall I just say? So that's the end of our question and answer for today. Right. So Louise is on about we did a gift wrapping. So we were in the gym the other day. Louise is on the treadmill most mornings, and I'm doing the weights and perhaps I'm on the bike, that sort of thing. And then Louise went, "I've had an idea." Takes the earphones out. "I've had an idea. We're going to do gift wrapping." No, what? Showing people how? Are we really that qualified to actually show people how to gift wrap? Do you have the link? You can put it in the chat. Can you find it?
Yeah, hang on.
So Louise said, no, not just ordinary gift wrapping. You know that thing where you put your hands behind your back, she says, and then you put your hands throughout this, and then you can do, that looks pretty good. You can do like gift wrapping like this.
It took you ages
like this.
to understand what I was
I thought, oh, Louise, what? No, it's going to be really good. It'll be really good. Trust me on this. We'll go upstairs and we'll put it on Facebook, and it'll be funny because we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, that, and the other. Go on then, I said, we'll do it. Oh, is that the same shirt I got on? No, it's a different shirt. So that is what we did. And we came up here, we did one take just to make sure the positioning was just about right. And then we actually did another take and we had the things in front of us. And then we thought that was pretty good, didn't we?
I think
so. And it worked. It really worked straight away. We didn't rehearse it. We didn't practice it. We just simply did it. In front of the camera, just to the beginning and the end off, and we just put it on Facebook, and it's had like 3,000 views, something like that. something. Why we do that sort of thing, I really don't know. But it was fun, and I think anything that anybody can do to raise laughter, to raise a smile, because there are lots of. There's lots of website, lots of Facebook groups that are just simply doom and gloom, and we just want to bring a bit of a smile to people, isn't it? Christmas coming up, it is a serious time, don't get me wrong. What's happening in the world is very serious, but I think we could all do with a bit of surprise and a bit of a cheer and a bit of laughter.
Next week, I think we should do it, but with the hammer hand piece.
Do the hammer? Someone suggested we do it with soldering. Can you imagine? That would be so dangerous. I couldn't let you loose with a nice bench with the flame, because
a nice bench. Never mind my hands.
Well, your hands are going to be out the way, aren't they? In that, and yeah. So I don't think we're going to be doing soldering.
That's enough for the sellotape.
And that really did hurt. That bit on the end of my nose, that really, really did hurt. I must admit. So go and check it out if you haven't watched it, if you haven't checked it out, go and check it out. It's a bit funny. So don't wrap your presents like that. I think we even sent it to the managing director of Clogger, but he hasn't replied. I think he was disgusted, to be honest. This is how not to wrap a piece of Clogger.
Don't use my boxes with this one.
Can you imagine? Right. I think, yes, thank you, Sandra. Give us a thumbs up. Do you know what? Whenever somebody mentions that in the chat, someone will always come down and give us a thumbs down. But there's been some people that's been leaving some nasty comments on some films over the last few months, and I've been hiding them from the channel. So hopefully it's those people who leave those nasty comments that give the thumbs down. So hopefully we're trying to weed out all the nasty ones and only have the lovely people on here.
But the lovely people far exceed the
oh my
numbers
gosh,
of people who aren't.
yes,
So,
absolutely.
Why would you be not very nice?
Andrew confused, yes. So
yeah, Michael suggested that you make a video for saw frames, like a 90s TV infomercial showing all the exaggerated downfalls.
Just
I remember the ones from the 80s.
Yes, that could be pretty good, couldn't it? We could do it.
What was the cartoon with the cat? The Charlie Says. Do you remember that? That's him, yeah.
Charlie Says.
Oh, my friends are gone now because my mum was talking to the milkman.
Charlie Says, never leave your children out of your sight.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll have to do that, won't we? All right, so everybody, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you. We've learned somebody's name, Martin, Scrapover Engineering. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, today. Thank you for coming on. It's going to be our last question and answer.
Road crossing. I remember the road crossing.
The green cross,
sorry,
yes.
I just love all these.
I'll tell you which one I did love. Was the man and woman like on the beach, and it's there's someone drowning in the sea, and you go ooh ooh, hey look, he's waving at me, oh no, ooh, and tongue comes out, he's got the big ice cream like that, and you go, oh, he's waving at me, oh, what's he saying? Oh, what's he saying now? Do you remember that one?
No, I remember that one. I remember the one with Rolf Harris, the swimming one.
Yeah, we won't go into that. No, but there's that one. It was, yeah, ooh, I can't remember her name now. And he sat there with his bit of a moustache. And he wears a hanky on his head with the knots in the corners. And they're on the beach, and there's this guy, oh, phone the lifeguard. Phone 999 and ask for the lifeguard. Ooh! And he's going, ooh! Like that.
So what happened in the end? I need to know.
I think the lifeboat man came and saved him.
Oh, thank God for that.
Right. Petunia, that's it. Hey, Petunia. Ah, well done, Jill. That's it. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look for that later.
It's a good one. It's a good one. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Our last question and answer, I think, of 2020 next week. I think it's going to be. That's going to be the 21st of December. We won't be doing the one the next week after that, because that will be Christmas week, and we are having a well-earned week off.
We'll be at Penavan, I expect, won't we?
Penavan, we're going to be, we're going to be really enjoying ourselves and chilling out.
Doing our Welsh hill walking.
Definitely Penavan, and planning world domination for 2021.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Louise, do you want to say anything?
See you next week.
The Tufty Club. Oh my gosh, Mandy, you remember the Tufty Club? Oh.
What's the Tufty Club?
There's a photograph. You've seen the photograph of me in the infants with the Belisha beacon by the side. Belisha beacon, and all the classmates are there. And I was really, really shy, because then I was like rolling up. If I was really shy, and I used to like roll up my jumper like that when I was really, really. And the Tufty Club, Tufty Club, crossing the road, was it?
The Tufty Club.
Don't know.
And they were just, all they did was cross the road. What on earth is that? An otter? What's that?
We should be having a screen share here.
Sorry, I find that a bit creepy.
All right, okay, we're rambling. We'll let Louise have a look at the Tufty Club.
And
Junior. Yeah, see you all next week. 4 p.m, Monday. Perhaps we'll try and do something a bit Christmassy. Perhaps we'll put a bit of holly. Perhaps we'll have a Christmas jumper. Perhaps we'll have a Christmas hat. Should we?
I got my Christmas blouse on.
You do have your Christmas blouse on. Very nice too, Louise. Very nice.
Joe and Petunia.
Did you have a pocket protractor? I remember having a slide rule. I always wanted a slide rule. My parents would never buy me a slide rule.
What's that?
It's very similar to these sort of things, isn't it? To these sort of things, but you can actually read it off on the dial. Right, a pocket protractor. I should love protractors and set squares. Right, everyone, we will see you next Monday, 4 p.m. for the last question and answer of 2020. Take care, have a lovely week, and we will see you. Got your slides ready?
No.
Oh, come on. No. You should have it ready,
There's
Louise.
no slides.
There is. Oh, we said this before, didn't we?
This happens every week and you go, get the slide ready, and there's no slide.
All right, we're going to go to a black. We're going to fade to black because I can do that from my control here. Everyone, take care. We will see you. Christmas hats. We'll have Christmas hats. And we will see you all very soon, next Monday, 4 p.m. Take care. We shall see you then. Take care. Bye. Maybe it's fade to black. There's FTB on here now. There it is there. Ready? Bye for now. Bye.